Hi, David.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Nice to see you again. I am recording this time. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Great.
Is it just us? That's unusual.
Well, it may not be. People might turn up later. I think Deb said she was coming, but I'm trying to be, whatever happens. Well, that's interesting. When I zoom in, look how marshy this is. I mean, not surprising, but absolutely.
Very low lying, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. I suppose that's all the sort of land that's in danger with climate change, etc.
Yeah. No, I've sailed along a couple of times along there.
Oh, have you? Must be
Uh,
amazing.
you get see a lot.
Right, I'm zooming out and we're going back to where we were. Whoops, what have I done? Roughly there, wasn't it? Not Newington Enterprise Centre. St Mary the Virgin, there we are. Okay. So that's where we were yesterday. I didn't say much about it because there wasn't all that much I felt moved to say. It was just that there's a shrine to someone who was allegedly killed on the way while doing a pilgrimage. So poor chap. And then if I zoom out again, you'll see that the walk isn't enormously the most beautiful. It's on an A road, but it's through countryside, and then it's through a town, then it's through countryside again, and then we stop at an old Roman chapel, which is.
I'm going to say that looks like a Roman road, isn't it?
Yeah. And then I've got a very strong reason for wanting to stop off here. So that's the plan for today. And how was your going to the pub yesterday?
Oh, it was fine. Yeah. It wasn't very warm, but then again, we got the fire pit lit later. So.
Good. Yeah. Where were we?
Warm, stinking of smoke.
Oh, I've come off the right road. There we go. Meant to be there. Oh yeah, it wouldn't let us go on the road, would it? Okay. Couldn't actually get any closer. Oh look, that was amazing, wasn't it? Yeah. Just went straight out of darkness into summer. It was almost like entering a new country.
Blossom on the trees there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been spending the morning writing the handout download for a new writing course I'm doing with the Idler, which is rather exciting, I have to say. And they told me yesterday that it's launching earlier than planned because something else has fallen out. That's why I had to get it done. And it included some of those things that we did last time of, on the speaking course of figures of speech and so on. So that was very handy that I'd done that.
Strange enough, I'm starting to really enjoy writing, which I really wasn't planning to do, but
great. Really good news.
It's actually stemmed from the speaking course. It's about owning what you're talking about. Yeah.
So that was exciting for me to do that this morning. Hello, Deb.
Hi. I just sent you an email saying I'd lost the link, but I found it.
Oh, phew! Thank you, because I wasn't looking, so I missed it. I'm recording now. I hope that's all right. No particular reason. Is it all right? I mean, okay. That looks very nice and green, doesn't it?
It worked well yesterday, didn't it?
It was really good. Yeah, thank you for the suggestion. Really worked nicely. I don't know, because I haven't looked at my emails for a while, David. I don't know if you sent anything. If you didn't, that's absolutely fine. But I've posted what the others sent onto the page, and I don't know if you saw that, Deb, but it's on there.
Yeah. Sorry, Mike, a bit long.
No, it was great. It's really nice to have that mix. So now I'm going left. Some long, some short. I mean, I really prefer the mix. Okay, so
Now, I've been sending emails to Ireland and Scotland and trying to get things moving a bit. We'll get there.
Yeah.
We want some Gaelic poets.
20% off takeaways from 5 p.m.
Brilliant.
Have you
That
had
was,
lunch, JP?
I beg your pardon?
I said, have you had lunch?
I did have lunch. I was just wondering whether the deal still applies because it's 2016 in this photograph,
Ah,
and whether it's even the same pub, whether there even is a building there. What could have changed? I was just telling David that, and this is something that you've done as well. I've just been writing up some course notes for a writing course I'm doing for the Idler Academy, online academy. And I just had to do it because they've brought the date forward. So I was just doing that this morning and I was enjoying it. And part of it was the use of particular figures of speech that people might want to sort of internalize and practice and become familiar with. And David did that with me on a thing that I did in November. But Deb, you were very encouraging last spring when I was starting to venture into all of this stuff.
I love that. It did cheer days up.
It was fun. I remember that you tackled nearly all of the things and it was great and felt really well supported.
It's a bit like doing a crossword every morning. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And someone had taken the trouble to sort of think of something interesting to do, and I loved it.
Oh, good. Well, I did slightly wonder about doing something with it now, but I don't know. Could do. Anyone else got any particular ideas?
No, open-minded.
So, because
Wow.
was that yes, Deb?
Well, I was just thinking I could read you a poem or.
Oh yeah. Yeah, why not? Yes, please.
Shall I?
Yes,
I
please.
have to find it. Chat among yourselves while I find it.
Okay.
Where the hell would it be?
This is called Watling Temple, which makes me think that we're on Watling Street.
Yeah, too, isn't it? So,
Yeah. So I wonder what the Watling Temple is. Doesn't look like much of a temple there, does it? It'll be over here.
it's like a bog.
Yeah, there's not much to be seen, is there? Just here. Maybe it is the ruins of something or other. It's hard to know. Anyway, I'm going to come off that because I was just going to show Deb we're on a very straight road. It's called in many places the London Road, and it's semi-urban much of the time. Oops, wrong way.
This is very distressing. It won't let me open it.
Oh, is it one of your own?
Hmm.
Oh,
It'll turn up somewhere. I've panicked about this sort of thing before. You use a Mac.
yes.
I really hate the way that they store things.
In places where you don't expect.
Yeah.
If you go on the Finder window and search by name, it normally tells you which folder it's in, but
Yeah, I just did.
you have to know
Well,
what name.
I have it for when you're ready.
Great. I'm ready. I'll just quietly keep clicking on the mouse.
Sorry?
I'm just clicking on the mouse quietly.
Shall I share my screen? And then you can read it as I read it.
What do you think? Would you rather that we did? I'm quite happy just listening, but I don't mind if you.
What do you think, David?
I'm quite happy listening as well, because it could be distracting trying to read it at the same time. You need to hear the sound.
Okay. Oh, it's not difficult to understand. I wrote it because I have a friend who's blind, and she leads an extraordinarily full and adventurous life. And she was a producer at the BBC for a bit. She's in the States at the moment, as head of comms for a blind charity. I mean, you know, I wrote her CV up for her. All I can say is I was intensely jealous. I mean, impressed. And but anyway, we got talking about colour, and she would talk about, you know, clothes, and, you know, she got a new dress or she got a new skirt, and she'd sort of say, you know, I'm told the colours go together, do they? Tell me about them.
Ah.
And I just thought it was really interesting. What is colour to a blind person?
Mm.
And so I wrote this, which I read her. And I think you might know who I'm talking about, JP.
I have an idea, yes.
And she's, you know, a fairly straightforward Aussie who's, you know, going to tell you what's what. So I was very anxious. And at the end, what she said was, well, it's not patronising, at least. So I took that as a compliment. Colour. I wonder about colour, being blind. Its particular eludes me, but I catch its connotations. Red curtains feel to me the same as blue, and yet I understand the warmth of red, its heat in shame or passion, its provocation to the poorly sighted bull. It does not treat or compromise. I do not question that my blood is red that pulses through me with the urgency of life itself. But surely blue must be more softly spoken, its range more flexible. It must be gentle to the sight because it is the colour of the sky whose vastness can contain the wind. It is the colour of the planet seen from space and therefore must be seemly in God's eye. Yet blue, they say, is also melancholy, the pain of bruises, and those notes that disconcert the soul by challenging the ear. Blue is a mystery to me. Then yellow, which it seems can bridge through to red through orange and through green to blue. It tastes as sour as lemon, sweet as syrup, golden on the tongue. It is a strangeness that its brightest forms stem all from poisonous things, from cadmium, from lead, and from the urine of malnourished Indian cattle fed only mango leaves. No wonder that it speaks of jaundice, jealousy, and cowardice. Still, as the yellow sun anneals all things, I overlook the poison and let the pale, slight scent of primroses breathe back to me the freshness of cool, wayward springtime sun. And so, by sounding all these subtleties of sense, I do not lack for colour in my world. But there is one I cannot contemplate, a thing so stark and dark it lets no light escape, the colour of despair, of grief and hate. In this quite darkened world, my mind retreats from black, the suck of its appalling vacancy.
Excellent.
Lovely, brilliant. Really, really loved it.
Thank you.
Have many musicians never said to anybody that musical notes have colour?
David, I can't hear you very well. I can hear
No,
you.
no, just a minute. We've got phone problems yesterday. Lovely. How's that?
Much better.
That's better. It's always works if it's in the right place. Yeah, musicians sometimes say that notes have different colours when they think of it that way.
Yeah,
Mm.
well, I mentioned the blue notes, didn't I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And up in Orkney, the wind is blue. It's called the blue scarf of wind. And they use colours for other things. Summer is yellow.
There's something about having to reach for other senses to describe one sense, isn't there?
Mm. thought, we talk so much about colour, really, both directly and, metaphorically.
Mm.
It must be very frustrating if you don't know,
You've never seen colour if you were born blind.
I mean, it
Yeah.
must be difficult, mustn't it?
Yeah. It's
Yeah, 'cause if you were born blind, you have no conception of it whatsoever.
Mm.
Yeah, you don't have no memory of it.
and is that the case in this instance?
Well, actually, Lee was born with very poor sight in one eye, and then when she was a toddler, she got an infection and she lost
Right.
that eye as well.
Right. Does she have any memory of?
I don't think so.
No.
But she does say that I think they think that if you've ever had sight at all, I think it sort of does something in your brain that is helpful.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure of the details of that, but I think that's what she
that
was
makes sense, because if a child is born with cataracts, congenital cataracts, unless they operate within the first few months of life, it never learns to see, because the brain never learns to see, although there's actually nothing wrong with the eyes or anything else. Once it gets to say 6 months and it hasn't been corrected, they can't learn. So they end up blind with everything actually in its place and should work, but it doesn't, because the brain's never learned.
This reminds me very strongly of the news stories at the moment about not necessarily being mute, but people losing the capacity or the willingness to speak because of isolation.
Yeah.
And the worry about young children who've just not had the exercise of that.
I mean, young children, there's a period of what they call primary socialization, which if they miss out, it cannot be corrected. And it's within the first 5 years of life.
Mm.
You can't put anything right if it goes wrong then.
I think that in previous times, I'm not quite sure when, but they I have read about this. They built institutes for the blind, and since glass was expensive and the blind couldn't see anyway, they didn't put any windows in.
Wow.
And they found that people just died.
Wow.
There's a fallacy that blind people can't see anything. That is not true. Most blind people can see something, some perception of light or something.
I don't
Being totally blind is actually quite rare.
I will tell you what truly shocked me about Lee once. She just moved into her new flat, and so she had an awful lot to learn. And I'm sort of learning with her, if you know what I mean. If you're blind and you move, you have to learn where every doorknob is, how every door opens, where every turn is.
Yeah.
I mean, everything you have to learn. And so anyway, we had quite a busy day, and she said, "Would you like a cup of tea?" So I said, "Look, I'll make it for you, Lee. You sit down and have a rest." So she said, "No, I've got tea sorted. It would be a pleasure to do it because I don't have to think about it. That's one thing I've got." Yeah. And so I waited for her a minute or two, and nothing much was happening. So I went to the kitchen door and said, "Okay." And she was in the kitchen in pitch blackness. She hadn't turned the light on, making tea. The door, that room actually didn't have a window. It was genuinely black until I opened the door. And I just said, "Oh." And so she said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Well, I was just surprised, you're completely in the dark." And she said, "Am I?"
That's very interesting. Yeah. Wow.
The worst thing you can do for a blind person is, if she said, "I'll make the tea," the worst thing you can do is to offer to do it. Because you'll make the tea, okay, fine, but you put something down in a different place. And then they've lost it.
Right.
I've done a lot with Lee by, by describing. I think, I think if you're living a working life, you just have to get past that stuff, and she has.
Yeah. But she'll have a kitchen well organised. She'll know where everything is, and if it goes into the wrong place, there's a big problem.
Well, it's certainly one of the problems of moving, because everything has to get reorganised.
Yeah, everything's different. Not easy. Not easy for somebody who's blind.
I love this effect when the Google thing does something really weird and we step into some new blurred universe, and you're right on someone's shoulder. You could probably take an apple out of the whatever bag that is.
Mm.
And yet, if we turn around, she's probably blurred out, if she's even there anymore. Probably not.
Do you find it a bit sinister, all this cameraness?
Yes, very much.
I often find that I wish I lived in a, less technological world. And then I think to myself, I suspect that everyone has always been wishing that.
Yeah.
About something. And that's where these sort of, ideas of a time of innocence, Garden of Eden and all those.
Yes, that's very true. That yearning for how it used to be.
Mm. I
do really wish that what actually is the complexity of these supposedly labour-saving devices, the things that need, that's a surprise, isn't it? Why are we over here in this alleyway and it doesn't want me to go over there?
But isn't that rather interesting? I mean, that's almost on a par with ours.
Yes, it is nearly, not quite. Yeah, very much so.
Gone down the
adventure time.
We've got. I don't know. Have we got an elephant god there?
It looks. Oh, maybe it's an arm. It does look a bit like a trunk or a long nose. It's rather hard to know, isn't it? Adventure time is unexplained, isn't it? I mean,
quite
adventure time. I suppose adventure time is a kind of explanation.
Well, if you were a child walking past that, would you be intrigued by it? Would you want to interact with it? Would it put you off going through the tunnel?
Ooh.
I don't think so. No, I think it would probably be quite attractive.
I would definitely want to look carefully at it, just in case there was something that I needed to know by looking at it. I'd want to fathom every character, and then I definitely would have wanted to know which one was my favourite.
Absolutely. Let's all choose a favourite and see if we all choose the same one.
Okay, shame we can't get down to the other end more.
Yeah, can't get a square on view, can we?
Yeah.
Never mind. We can manage.
Yeah, I think I've got mine. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Where, can you? I'll point at mine because I can point, but it's this person with the very confident sword waving.
Yeah. Yes, he looks confident, but also good-hearted, doesn't he?
Yes. Yeah. I'm not going to do any trouble, but I've got a sword and I like it.
Yeah.
I like the one that looked like the elephant.
The blue one. This one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I thought about him, but I thought that if I was a child, I'd probably go with the skateboard. Not really that I particularly like the character, but I think that ability to fly on a skateboard would be quite a good chum to have,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it would be. I wonder what it is. Oh, it's a very old games console.
I think it's almost a Pac-Man or something like that,
yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah. I remember it's about 20 years ago that we used to have one of those. I think maybe more. Yeah, more. 30 years ago.
And which one would we like least? Because I definitely know that.
Oh, do you?
Stop me going through the tunnel, yeah.
Is it this one?
Nope.
Is it the king?
Nope.
Well, this one here is not very friendly.
No.
The arms folded.
Don't you know?
I actually find this a bit freaky.
Oh, it's this guy.
Oh, which one?
The guy on the extreme left.
Yeah, that's the one I picked.
Lemonhead.
Yeah, Lemonhead. He looks a bit sinister.
He does. He looks like he means bad things with his sword.
You wouldn't want to meet him on the dark night.
No, definitely.
Yeah, I think other people are into peace and love, but I don't think he is.
I'm not sure about this one being into peace and love. I think the mouth looks like he wants to eat someone up.
That's true.
He's a bit odd, isn't he, really? He's a bit weird.
And
I
this
have a bit more into wisdom.
one, I'm a bit worried about the eyes not having pupils.
Yes. Yes, it sort of suggests the lack of a soul, doesn't it, somewhere?
Yes.
You have to go down there and draw some in.
Yeah,
Mm.
we should, shouldn't we? Yeah. Right, now, where are we? Let's have a look. We're still on the A2. We're going through, what town is this? Sittingbourne. Yeah, okay.
You realise that people younger than us would probably say, oh, it's the Watsits. You must have seen them.
Yes, yeah.
Sittingbourne, I've got that on my map. There we go.
So temporarily, the London road is called East Street. Oh, we've probably come off it and we're cutting through the town centre, aren't we?
There's a bit where the main road comes off the old road, and the
Yes,
old road goes straight on.
that's it. There's the main road has taken a little detour around us. But we're still plodding on in that very Roman straight line.
I have a mind, I've discovered, that thinks in straight lines.
Uh-huh.
Wherever I'm walking, I tend to think I'm always walking north. So when I turn left and right, I sort of discount it because as soon as I've done it, I still think I'm walking north.
Oh,
And I get very, very lost.
I can see how that would be the case. Orientating oneself and then thinking you're not reorientated is definitely a hazardous move. Snipes Hill.
I discovered that it really is a failing, it's a problem. And I discovered that in one of my jobs, my boss had exactly the same problem. And the way that I used to disguise it was that, you know, when I was walking through a town I didn't know, or I was going somewhere I didn't know, I just walked half pace behind whoever I was with. And they had a very comfortable feeling that they were in charge and leading the way, which,
Right.
if you're with a woman, is, I'm sure, very comfortable.
Right.
And anyway, when Peter and I got to Paris, I discovered that he was doing exactly the same. And we got so lost and so late.
Paris is such an easy city to get lost in. It's
Do you think more than other cities?
God, yes. Yeah. It's, in fact, it's huge. A lot of it looks very similar.
Yeah. I once got quite a bad head injury. It wasn't terrible. It was not terrible, but I was on a bicycle and I came off at speed and broke some bones. And the weird thing was, I had a very specific memory loss. I forgot the week before, but I did remember a book that I read during the week before. So that's weird. And I forgot my way around London and had to relearn it. Not very complicated, but I did have to do that.
Did you have a stage when you were relearning it where you sort of began to get things back, or was it literally filling in an empty slate?
I don't know. I think it was so blurry a process that probably things did come back, but I might have thought that I'd relearned them. It's a bit hard to tell. All of the names were absolutely familiar. It's like, oh yeah, Oxford Street. Oh yeah. But what does it look like? And then I'd see it and it was familiar, but I just couldn't picture it until I'd sort of reconnected something.
I think you were pretty lucky, JP.
Very lucky. Yeah. I was living with medical students at the time, and I knew from them that when a doctor in hospital points a torch in your eye, it means they're worried that you're going to, you know, your brain might be going. And they kept on pointing a torch in my eye, which was a bit depressing. And then, because they were medical students and they were trying to show off to doctors, they said, oh yeah, we're all medical students, we'll take him home, he doesn't have to stay. And none of them stayed with me overnight. I was parked in the room of the economist.
That's outrageous.
Yep.
Well, I hope they didn't stay friends for too much longer.
They are good friends, but I don't know how they managed to do that. I don't know why they managed to. I would have thought they'd be falling over themselves to take care, but that's a whole different thing, isn't it? That's not the same as being a medical student. But I did think it was quite comic, and I felt very sorry for my friend Martin, the economist, because every so often during the night he would call out to me, and I'd say, "Yeah, I'm all right."
there's something more than, just playing doctors sort of thing. I think one of the sort of fundamental things about being a doctor is that when you take on someone's care, you have taken on responsibility for them.
Yes.
That's what I would have said to them.
They hadn't taught
them
them.
up.
They obviously hadn't taught them that bit up to that point.
Yeah. This is a trying to evoke the Oast houses, isn't it?
Kentish
It is.
house, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's good. I'm glad that someone's. Yeah. So now, are we still in town, or we're just about approaching. No, we're not.
How's the RSI?
This is no.
And
I wonder whether I might actually be coming through. Famous last words. But I think knowing that the end is in sight tomorrow, of this, and also I think maybe my index finger has developed some new kind of resilience or strength. I hope so. But I have found it quite painful to type.
What are they doing? Yellow jackets walking very determinedly along this empty road.
Yes, what are they doing? Let's go back. Oh, this one looks like just heading off to work, but for some reason wearing a yellow jacket. Maybe it's a hazardous road to walk down.
Could be.
Maybe the pavement disappears in a minute.
Maybe they need a yellow jacket at work, so
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, maybe as unexciting as that. It's funny, this road, isn't it? The Roman road, and big deal and everything, but it's only 2 lanes. It's got quite small houses on it, right on the road, not sort of set far back or anything. I don't know why that seems to me funny. Seems quite small and suburban.
Linear development. In, I don't know, what would you say when they were built?
They look maybe Victorian, maybe not quite that old.
yeah, I'd say late Victorian. But this is obviously,
Yeah, not that one.
that's been modernised or something being done.
Yes.
Well, they're
These are
sort of looking Georgian, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which makes me think they're probably a bit later than that. But
It's a surprisingly humdrum walk after our time on the Downs.
yeah.
Especially, well, it's funny that that I could become so spoiled about the Downs, because actually most of our walk, I think it's fair to say, has not been especially attractive. Lots of the London bits and so on. I'm going to jump ahead and go to
There's a village called, I don't know if we passed it. What's this one?
going backwards. Don't do that.
Davington. Osspring. Faversham.
Yes, that's where we're going to end. And I had in mind something to show you. Well, I want to read from the British Pilgrimage Trust thing actually first, because I skipped it yesterday. And I think it's quite good to have a guidebook and actually to read it, even if it's not that earth-shattering.
I have to say, I'd be getting grumpy on this road.
Yeah, it's very, very tiresome, isn't it? Let's just jump to the place.
Too straight. When I was at school, I went to boarding school, and when we were in the 5th form, we had to take the younger kids for a walk on Sunday mornings after chapel. And we had to wear full uniform. I mean, we were just sitting targets, really.
Oh.
And everyone was meant to walk along in a crocodile, but of course nobody did. But you knew that somebody would be keeping an eye and seeing, how well you were doing. So I bundled my little group of first years into a line, and I taught them a rhyme. Did you do this when you were a kid? There are 2 words where you swap feet. So you're walking along steadily in step.
Oh, yeah.
And then
instead of left, right, left, right.
Yeah, you swap. And so the whole group does a little,
a skip.
Skip, yeah. And the rhyme was, I had a good job that I left. And don't you think I was right? So you changed feet on the tie, and I was.
Great.
And with a little bit of practice, everybody got it. And there we all were looking, you know, ridiculous in our uniforms and in a crocodile as required, which is even worse. But doing this little hop.
Must be, that's what Google needs to incorporate, is some animated school children doing the left, right, right hop.
That's right.
Much better walking.
There's a place marked just to the north of the road that says Stone Chapel remains of. Is that it?
I think that is it. It should be it, because it's in the book. So I'll tell you just what it says. It's not the most astonishingly amazing bit, but it's part of the reason why a pilgrim slows down at Faversham. Roman temple that was converted into a church and is now a ruin. Unique origins are amplified by its unlikely setting in the middle of a field beside the busy A2 road, a mile to the west of Faversham itself.
Yeah,
Enough remains of the walls to make out the shape of the church and its altar. The small Roman section of temple building is in the middle, part of the chancel area of the later church. There we go. So English Heritage Notice Board says this is the only British example of a Roman temple being incorporated into a later church.
That's interesting.
And the book goes on to say that may not be quite correct, but anyway, there we are. So that's the first thing. I think it looks rather splendid with the trees there. Certainly when you've been on this boring road without anyone leading young children at the hop. So now we're going to come to a place that I didn't even know until I just looked it up just before setting off, as it were, this afternoon.
Yeah, there's a roundabout. I've got that.
And then we'll go straight there. So this is going to be a place that actually has a lot of resonance for me, but I didn't realise that. And so I'm really, really pleased about it. So I'm going to whiz through Faversham. Charming though I dare say it may be, and dare say it might not be.
Are we on the B2045?
I think it's the South Road, and thank you for keeping an eye on the directions, because
It doesn't
have
have to
two
go
people
Faversham,
making
that.
sure.
If
I
that's
like
it.
that brick.
Yes, I don't know how I just did that. Whoops. Now, where was I? I think we were around about here looking at the brick. However,
Don't worry, we saw it.
that's nice, isn't it?
Mm.
An interesting difference. So we're going to finish off in a second, turning off South Road, coming to the town's.
He's Georgian, I think, don't you?
I beg your pardon. He's a pilgrim.
This is Georgian. This town.
Oh, definitely, yes. I thought you meant this man is a pilgrim, which didn't. It could be,
couldn't he?
Yeah.
He's what's his name? Daniel. You know, the guy who jumped out of the helicopter with the Queen for the Olympics.
Oh, Daniel Craig. Yes.
You think?
Pumped up like that. Oh, look, there we are.
Yeah, no.
Top hat and tails. Oh.
Now, there is a sign around here. So I'm just going to jump straight to the Swan Cafe. Where is it? There, Swan Cafe. Okay.
Why do they call themselves the stationery shoppy? It does annoy me.
It's to attract American tourists.
Yeah. Oh, now this is what I was after, but you can hardly see anything. So I will read from the book at this point. There we are. That's the plaque. Let's just zoom out a tiny bit. Okay.
What does it say?
Right. So sorry about the Swan pub. Doesn't look very good. That was 2009, however. It must have changed hands at least once since then. Right. So on the Swan pub. Here we go. Faversham. Pilgrims once came in great number to a holy well dedicated to a Roman-era saint, now lost under the town centre's high street, but part of a matrix of early Christian attractions. Faversham has no less than no fewer than three reminders of Roman-era belief. While none of them represents a cast iron link to early Christianity, collectively they tell an intriguing story. For Faversham was home to two famous saints from Roman times, the brothers Saint Crispin, which is my brother's name, and Saint Crispinian. So I suppose I must be Crispinian, says my brother.
Saint of Cobblers.
Yes, martyred around 286. According to medieval tradition, the pair came to Britain to escape persecution in France, worked for a short time as shoemakers in the Roman town at Faversham. A holy well is said to mark the site of their worship, but it vanished without trace when I visited in July 2010, which was after this photograph. That's really weird. There is only a plaque to mark the location in the town centre above the Swan Cafe, a former pub on Market Street. According to the plaque, St Crispin's Well was situated outside the Swan with a hand pump over it. I couldn't even identify where this once stood, although older guides describe an elaborate structure. It must be the oldest Christian tradition of any holy well in Britain, which makes its current absence all the more perplexing. The Oxford Dictionary of Saints records that pilgrims visited this site well as late as the 17th century. Someone must know where it's gone. Anyway, a brief visit to see the plaque can be supplemented by a much longer tour of Faversham's wonderful parish church, a short walk away. They're not technically English martyrs, Crispin and Crispinian, or whatever his name was, since they only lived here for a short time and were killed on their return to France, but they predate St Alban by a couple of decades, so it seems eminently reasonable to commemorate them as the church has done.
It's interesting that Shakespeare gets them both in, doesn't he, in Henry V?
Yes.
Crispin Crispian shall ne'er go by.
That's right. And it mentions, it goes on to say something about this. So also in the church, it's likely that that's the burial place of King Stephen. And if the names Crispin and Crispinian sound familiar, it's because Shakespeare refers to them in Henry V's famous speech before the Battle of Agincourt, which was fought on the 25th of October, the Saint's Day. Shakespeare must have known they had greater resonance than a mere coincidence of dates, because the pair lived in England but died as martyrs in France. So on that note, if very quickly, I remembered, and I'm not doing it except to laugh at how I might have changed or something, but I remember that because my brother's called Crispin and my dad's an actor, we always had to do the Crispin speech. So I knew it off by heart. And a few years ago, for some reason I don't remember, I recorded it on YouTube. And I haven't watched it for years. And so I'm going to just see if we can see it. There we are. I've no idea what this is going to be like. I haven't looked.
When is this, JP?
This, I don't know the date. What's he that wishes so? My cousin Westmoreland. No, my fair cousin. If we are marked to die, we are enough to do our country loss. And if to live, the fewer men, the greater share of honour. I really can't allow you to watch the whole thing. It's just too weird for me. But it's there somewhere. And I just thought I'd end with that, because I was so pleased to see that my brother's name and their namesake and patron saint is on our route today. And tomorrow is the big day. We get to Canterbury at last. Oh, gosh. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
How do you think it would feel if you'd been a pilgrim after all these weeks and Canterbury tomorrow?
Oh, it'd be so glorious, wouldn't it? I think. A slight sense of anticlimax, maybe.
Maybe. Do you think your soul would feel in better repair?
I want to find that out, because I think that will happen tomorrow in its own funny way. It has been a non-spiritual pilgrimage largely, and my friends at the British Pilgrimage Trust say any faith or none is fine, and I've done this on the same basis. But I think there is something in there about the journeying together and the turning up because I'm determined to do it, and that being devoted to that end. So it's not specifically denominational, but there is something important. I think it will feel good.
I will try to be with you.
Thank you. What do you think?
Well, I only really came in at the end, but in trying to sort of think about, what it was about, I do think it's a very interesting conception, a pilgrimage that seems to be in, most religions in one form or another. And I think it has something to do with about a significant journey that is to no end except God's end.
Yeah.
That is a little bit a parallel of a life's journey.
Yeah.
And I find it very joyous that Chaucer finds so much scope for full living, you know, in all the faithfulness.
Yes, yeah, it really is. David, what do you think about us arriving tomorrow?
Yeah, I think that's going to be very, very interesting. It certainly puts the reason for the stories into some sort of frame. You can see why we told each other stories,
Yeah,
because that's what we've done.
yes,
Yeah, yeah, and you can imagine them walking along the road and chatting away.
definitely.
Mm.
Particularly those long Roman roads.
Oh, yeah, at least any traffic on so much. Well, there'll be carts and whatnot, but
Yeah.
they wouldn't have 42-ton lorries to contend with, would they?
One of the reasons I'm really interested in what you think is, well, I should stop because I've been much better than this at timekeeping normally. But I got an email from Mary Monroe, the author who joined us a week or so ago, and she said, "What have you discovered? How have you changed, or how's it changed you, or anything?" And I don't in any way reject that question. I welcome that question, but I do not know the answer yet, so I'm going to try and work it out and look back on what's actually happened.
Very good.
Yeah. Till
Good.
tomorrow.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.